back to Better Together, where we connect, communicate, and collaborate. I am Deneen, your host, and
I'm Sierrah. Today we're discussing how men communicate their needs and why men and women sometimes misunderstand each other, which is a very important topic.
it sure is. I mean, every time when I think about it, I always think about go back to what we think about: men are from Mars and men, women are from Venus. But our goal isn't to stereotype men and women, but to better understand one another, and so that our relationships can be stronger.
And for this month of June, we're focusing on men, fathers. So this topic falls right into that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think next week is Father's Day, so I'm not really sure if we're going to have a show, but I think we will. But that week after that, I think we're going to have one of my co-hosts on there, Roger, and he's going to talk to us about, him raising his grandson and things like that. So it's going to be a nice show. And I have to give a shout out to the Knicks fans. We talked about it. Everybody said that they didn't have a chance, but once again, it's proven that's why they play the game. Because if we knew who was going to win every time, it wouldn't have to play the game. So
exactly.
they played the game, they won it, and congrats to all the Knicks fans out there. We know it's been a long time coming, but they deserved it. They deserved it.
And interestingly, they said I think the last 6+ winners have been a different team.
Yeah, nobody repeats. And hey, people don't repeat, and that actually is a good thing. That talks about, the parity in the league. So the league, the draft is working. The draft is getting teams better. Yes. The teams from the bottom are coming up. So it's really working. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. Everybody know I'm a sports fanatic. I love basketball, obviously, football. I like baseball. I like hockey. Oh my gosh, get in there. And I think the sports show is going to be talking about the World Cup. Is it World Cup, Sierra? What is it?
It is the World Cup. There's going to be a segment coming up because it just started here in the States. The U.S. does have a team, contrary to popular belief. So if you want to go get a jersey now and support the U.S., you can. Even if you don't know about soccer.
Right. I think the sports show is going to give you some, be lessons learned about soccer. So before it's all said and done, you might even be interested in soccer. I hear it's very exciting. So, and it's very similar to basketball. So anyway, we digress. We get back to our show. We're going to talk about why communication differences exist with men and women. So when I was growing up, many men were taught to be providers, protect, and to solve problems. That's all they had to do. That's it.
Yes, exactly. And today, I mean, we've talked about this before. We're seeing a shift. Men are increasingly encouraged to express their emotions, but may still carry messages learned as boys. So it might be difficult for them to transition from just being providers to having to have emotional intelligence, provide different things than they would have had to previously.
Yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, a lot of when you start talking about protect and provide and to solve problems, a lot of that sounds like be strong, don't cry, right? Handle it yourself. Those are some of the things that those characteristics of that.
Yes. And men, they're carrying that later in life. And it's like the expectations they had are completely void of any discussion of how they feel or providing emotional stability and things like that. So it's a very stark shift, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that it just opens the door to me. It opens the door for stronger relationships, better understanding, and just better communication in general. I think so, because now, before, when you talked about, just from my generation, when you talked about a dad, they wouldn't say much. You wouldn't hear dads. You wouldn't hear dads in the mix. You wouldn't hear dads. You hear all the women cackling, right? You hear all the women doing all those things. but you wouldn't hear the dads. And dads just would not, I mean, they would not be verbal around everybody else. Of course, they'd be in the
Yes.
corner talking to each other, but they wouldn't do that around everybody else. But now we're expecting them to, to chime in. Tell us
Yeah.
how you feel
And,
about that,
and I think even, I mean, that's even for like people my age fathers. Like even our fathers were not that communicative. Like I know
Mm-hmm.
plenty of my friends where every time I went to their house, I was greeted by their mother. She was always a present. She'd speak to you, and the dad would just be in the living room, minding his business, and there was no problem with that. I do think it opens the door for better communication, but since like we discussed in other episodes, how like self-esteem and the way you operate is baked in so young. Although we would think, oh, because in the long term, it is gonna be better for men to be able to properly communicate their feelings and not just keep everything inside. But if they're not prepared to do so, it's very difficult. So I think that's where it is.
Yeah, I do think so. I think that it's, lack of preparation for it. But
Yes.
also on the good side of it, I think that a lot of men would love to feel like they're valued, that what they
Yes.
say and what they do is valued. And I think that that's a piece that has been missing. We can't value what you're saying because you're not saying anything. So if you start you start expressing yourself a little bit more, then we can, let you know that we value, what you have to say. I think
Yes.
some of the men, I know Amon would say, some of the men, they're like, oh, you think you're always right. And, no matter what we say, we can't win. But the reality of it is when we start understanding where each others are coming from
Yes.
better,
Yeah.
then, and put our listening ears on, we're going
Yes.
to be able to communicate better. And so when you talk to us, we're going to be able to receive it in a more positive way.
Yeah. And it's like maybe it's like if men said more, then they would win more conversations, quote unquote. Opposed to just saying one thing every 3 weeks, you're that the likelihood of that going your way every time is not high.
So you need to get the numbers up.
Yeah, maybe they need to get the numbers up, like just like have like 3 conversations over a couple weeks.
Well, I think what the guys are going to say, the women need to stop yapping some. If
Yeah,
women
we
would
need
stop
to
yapping so much,
talk,
maybe they would have a chance.
yeah, talk less, them talk more, we'll meet in the middle and everything's going to be perfect.
Right. Some balance, some balance, some balance. I think
Mm-hmm.
that we talked about this even before. A lot of women have been used to like taking care of a lot of things and
Yes.
just assuming all these different roles. And so they're just automatically doing things. And a lot of times the men would say, you're doing too much. Well, I'm doing too
Mm-hmm.
much because that's what I'm used to. That's what I believe the expectations are. And so we kind of have to reprogram,
Yes.
rewrite the story on roles in the
Mm-hmm.
home and in relationships. And then we'll be able to, kind of have a clean slate, and not necessarily a clean slate, but just redo it, a redo, I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just noticed in the past, a lot of men do all their speaking through actions, right? So it's what they
Yeah.
do. Like a man, and a lot of times you say, but what I've noticed, this is interesting to me, is there are a lot of scammers out there. I'm just going to be honest. There are a lot of people out there who are saying things that they don't really mean and things like that.
Yes.
So what we're finding is that look, buyers beware. There are a lot of people out there who are saying a lot of things and are not doing. So we have to
Yes.
make sure that we people, men and women, are making sure that the actions line up with the words.
Mm-hmm.
So if you say, I'm interested in you, then your actions should line up with that, right? You
Yes.
say you love me, then you should not be hurting me, things
Mm-hmm.
like that. So we just have to make sure that that's what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. Like, since we know that men typically communicate through actions, such as like fixing something around the house, working extra hours, or taking on, extra responsibilities that we typically associate with men doing, taking out the trash, mowing the lawn, things like that. We sometimes women, we want reassurance verbally, but that's just not how men are communicating. However, I will say that most women would rather a man who acts than a man who just talks.
Exactly. So it's a fine line, right?
There's a fine line there, because there's a lot. I mean, if you speak to women my age, a huge issue in dating is encountering a lot of men who are just saying things they don't mean or communicating not at all, and then causing so much confusion, not wanting to confront people, and not acting on anything they say. So, knowing that men communicate through actions is like critical, because then you can like as you said earlier, like kind of avoid the scam, because what men say, and then what pretty much anyone says, should not be taken as like Bible. It should be how they're acting. What are they doing?
Yeah, true. And you know what? Just from a personal experience, I think another piece that we need to throw out there is you need to find out what people value. Mm-hmm. Because if you have a person that does not value money per se, let's say yes. I don't value money, and I just give money away. I would rather give you and this is for me, I would rather write you a check than give you my time, right? So if I'm writing you a check, that does not necessarily mean that I value you. That does not necessarily mean that that you're special to me, because I'm just writing a check because that's what I do. So you need to make sure, because sometimes you'll have, and people will say, oh, they do this for me. And you're saying, but they do that for everybody. Right? So you want to make sure that when people are saying things, that they're doing things deliberate for you, or that, whatever intentions that they have, that you understand what the intentions are. Because sometimes the intentions are not. You'll have some guys will buy you 1 million gifts. Yeah. And they don't care nothing about you.
No. Like
they're just showing off.
I literally encountered a man who said that he can't wait until he gets a certain amount of money, so that women only want him for his money, so he doesn't have to do anything else. That was his goal. He was like, oh, I would love for women not to lean on me emotionally and just want my money. So wow, that is because to him that's easier. And I mean, if I'm thinking about myself, I think it kind of is easier, where things are a little more transactional. You only have to provide something that isn't like an inconvenience to you. It's not taking away your time. It's just like using the Cash App, calling it a day, paying the bill, calling it a day. So in some instances, that is simpler if you already have the money, of course. Now, if you don't have the money, then someone asking you to pay their rent is difficult, because as I know, it's difficult to pay your own rent. So like you said, it depends on what people got.
Yeah, I mean, you do. You just got to kind of watch. You need to watch that, though. Be careful about, what people's intentions are and where they're coming from. Just like, I mean, everybody knows men are typically date younger, right? Yeah. And when they date younger, they normally would have more means than the younger woman, right? Yes. If they have more means, then she's going to expect you to do more stuff. But then the men are like, that's all she wants me to do. Well, what else? That's what you're selling. Yes. So you need to know what people are selling.
Yes.
And you need to know what you're selling, because if that's what you're selling, then that's what people are there to buy that.
Yes.
You know, so that's a real thing. Yes. A lot of people talk about, well, why are they coming at me like that? They're coming at you based on what you're selling. Yes. If you're a person says, I do this, I do that, I know how to cook, I know how to do all the things, then they're going to be expecting you to do that. Right. Yes. So yeah, 100%. That's funny anyway. So I guess the next piece I wanted to talk about was the common needs men have. Right. And it's like men like women, have emotional needs, and some needs include respect, appreciation, trust, peace, and partnership. So these are some of the things that men have a tendency to need, some specific things, because we have a tendency to think that we give them what we want. Like
Yeah.
if you want I want affection, I'm giving him more affection. I
Yes.
want him to be nice to me, I'm being nice to him. So these are just, giving you an idea on some of the things that they might need that you might not even value, right? You might
Yeah.
not, you might not care about some of those things, but men
And
do.
it's interesting because since men aren't very vocal about, like, maybe giving women words, we kind of assume that they also don't need those words. So it's like,
Right.
but we all hear how men want more appreciation for what they do. They just that's a really, really big thing. So if they're not necessarily telling you a lot of words, then your assumption is they don't want it either. But they do actually really want to hear that they did a good job. Like, it's like a
They want validation. They do want validation.
like a dog. It's like, good boy, like a rub on the head. Hey, you did a good job. That's what they want.
Well, here's the other thing. They want validation, but they want validation in the way that they want it.
Yes.
Right? Because
Yeah.
some people want validation. Some men want validation, and they want you to say wonderful things to them, right? But then
Yes.
some men want validation, and you just, being accommodating for them.
Yes.
Like, okay, give me a break. I've done these wonderful things for you. Now give me a break. Give me some time or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So you need to know what validation technique they need, or that
Mm-hmm.
they require, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
so I mean, it goes back to communicating. It goes back to listening. It
Mm-hmm.
goes back being attentive,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes back to being present, right?
Yes.
And being by present mean, you need to be watching what they're doing, watching what they need. Matter of fact, I had a thing, this is not about men and women, but this is just about being present. I had an example for today. We were at church today, and there was a little girl sitting in front of me and my mom, and a little girl was sitting there, and she looked like she was so mad, and she's like holding her arms like this. Well, she had on like a tank top. And me and my mom look at each other, and why does this girl keep looking back at us, looking mean or whatever? My mom said, I think she's cold. So I take off my jacket and I put it over her. And then she starts smiling, and we're like, the girl was cold.
The girl.
And her grandmother's sitting next to her, looking at her like, you better straighten up.
Yeah.
And we were present. We
Yes.
were attentive. So I'm just saying, so you just need to be making sure that you're present and that you're watching what's happening in the situation. I digress on that, but anyway, that was just a little
Mm-hmm.
example on that. And same thing for men. I mean, if your man's not saying anything, you need
Yeah.
to know his moods,
Yeah.
because he has moods as well. Just like we say women are so moody, well, men are quite moody themselves. But you need to know what the moods mean. What does it mean when he says nothing? What does it mean when you don't see him, he don't even come out of the room? What
Yeah.
does it mean when he's pacing around? What does it
Yes.
mean when he goes outside and starts doing something with the car? What does it mean? You need
Yeah.
to be attentive to
Yeah.
what people are saying.
Yeah, because we see that a lot where guys, they tend to, like, it feels like they're like pulling away, and we assume that they're angry when a lot of times they could just be processing information. They're thinking about something, and they just want to take some time to, like, really understand what's going on. And a lot of times they're just being quiet, not because of you. Not everything is about you. A lot of times it's about themselves. And I think that's a good thing to consider, even with that little girl at church. Like, you could have seen her looking back at you and thinking, man, why is she eyeing me? What's her problem? She needs to stop looking at me.
Right.
But then you switched it around and be like, oh, well, maybe she needs something.
Yes.
Maybe help. Like, maybe she needs something. So I think
I heard something so good today. This is what I heard today. I heard something good today. The girl said that when things don't go right, instead of saying, what did I do wrong? She says, what's wrong with this situation? What's wrong with this situation? What needs to change in this situation for it to go right? And start looking at the situation instead of trying to internalize it or, blame anything like that. Think about the situation. So we're in a situation, instead of me and you going after each other, let's figure out, what's going on, what's really going on.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing to kind of, a good practice.
Yeah, because we all just have a huge ego and we feel like every single thing is about us and the world revolves around us. We're all the main characters. So we immediately, the easiest assumption to make is that this is about me. They have a problem with me. Something coming from your own perspective when it's like shifting it to theirs, I think is always helpful.
Yeah.
Because it could be you. It could be you. And sometimes it is you. Sometimes it is you.
Exactly. No, that's true. And I think when we're talking about men, though, I think that we need to ask the question.
Yes.
We need to ask the question, because many times we're like, well, I don't want to bother him or whatever, but just ask, how are you doing? Is there anything I can do right now for you?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
What do you need right now? Is there anything I can do right now? Don't talk about tomorrow, yesterday, nothing. Get it, stay in the now. Is there anything I can do for you right now to make things better?
Yes.
Right.
Because avoid making assumptions, because that's where conflict comes from. Because a lot of times, I mean, I'm guilty of this. I assume the worst. I assume,
Yes.
I could assume I did something. It's the worst case scenario when, like you said, just like asking a direct question about like right now is definitely beneficial. And even if they're not like the most vocal or they don't give you a task you can do to help them, like their response is pretty, would be helpful overall. Like, do they respond and they're like more angry? Do they start pointing fingers? Do they isolate further? But if they just give a simple like, oh, thanks for asking, I'll let you know if I need anything. Like that means it's like they appreciate you reaching out, but there's nothing you can do. And you can just be like, okay, cool. They just need some time. They'll figure it out and they'll come to me if I can do something.
Yeah, no, and you know what, Sierrah, and that is actually good. But I also think that, once you ask the question and they shut it down or whatever, don't get defensive, right? No. Don't get so determined to fix it, right?
Yeah.
You reach out, put the olive branch out there, and then allow them to come back when they are ready, because men process information. It takes more time for them to really process information than it does for us. I mean, we can, we're multitaskers, so we're on to the next thing even before we've left this thing, right? But give them time. Yes. So don't get defensive when people don't respond to your help the way that you want them to respond.
And a lot of men don't want women to fix their problems. That's literally not what they're in a relationship with you for. There are men who are like, oh man, I want a woman who's going to come in here, tell me what to do, guide me, give me answers. But a lot of men are not with women for them to problem solve. Like to them, that's their responsibility. So, you trying to hammer in like, this is the answer, this is what you could do, this, that, and third. It's like, it might have the opposite effect you think it does.
No, it's true. I mean, we need to let men be men, right?
Yeah.
We need to let men do what they do. I think a lot of times, because many of us women are used to being on our own and doing our own thing, we don't show that we believe that men are capable. And men are much more capable than we allow them to be a lot of times. So, but I think that, we've been duped so many times.
Yes.
That we're just like, you know what, I'm not going there anymore. But I think that now, when we're trying to get men to feel more and trying to let men understand that we appreciate that piece of them, I think that it's time for us to try again.
Yes.
Let's try again. Let's give them an opportunity to show themselves as the men that we know that they can be. I think that I think it's a good time to do that. I'm not saying put yourself out there where, you can fail, they can destroy you. No.
Yeah. Don't let the fools have a chance. No more clownery. Don't accept clownery.
Yeah, but I think that, if and we need to let men do what they do, like things like this. Like I was in Lowe's a while back, and I got a cart with a lot of stuff in
Mhm.
it, and the man comes over and he says, "You need help?" My first inclination is, I got it. That's my
Yeah.
first thought. But something said to me, yeah, sure, thank you. I would love that, thanks. And so
Yeah.
he helped me put my stuff in the car. And I was like, thank you so much for asking. I really appreciate that. And he walked away like, because that men want to do that. They want to feel useful.
Good
They're
man.
just tired. A lot of them are tired of being rejected by us.
Yes.
A lot of them are. And I think that, we need to get our mind locked in to be able to receive some of the things that men are trying to do for us. Men
Hmm.
try to open the door for us, and we're like, we don't, we're not even expecting men to open the door. For the man open the door, and we're looking at him like, what you doing? You go.
Yeah, I'm
You
guilty. I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah, you go. Or I
Yeah.
remember one of my friends, we're sitting in the car, and he always opens the door up for all the women. And I'm in the car, I'm waiting because he's basically saying, girl, you need to calm down. And my daughter's like, open the door. He's like, no, I got you. And so, she had to make an adjustment for it. But just kind of pause a little bit and
Yeah.
see where they are. And
Yes.
then we can adjust.
Yes.
If he wants to open the door, fine. But you don't necessarily have to make that a demand.
Yes.
But if that's something that, he enjoys doing for you, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, if he enjoys cooking and you love cooking, you don't need to be trying to outcook him. You give him some opportunities to cook, and you have some opportunities to cook. I mean, you can share. It needs to be a partnership, right?
Yes.
And we need
Yes.
to be trying to get the most out of both parties involved,
Hmm.
right? Especially on
Yes.
the house thing, because I don't care what nobody says, it's a lot of work keeping a house the way that most people want it. It ain't,
Yes.
it's a lot of work. And I just don't believe that one person can do it sanely. One person can do it, but can they do it sanely and be happy? No, they're going to do it grudgingly because they feel like they should have help.
Hmm.
When you have other people in the house, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I think that, again, we just need to be operating as a partnership. And of course, the number one thing that's going to help us to be able to understand, what men need better is going to be healthy communication, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
healthy relationships require both people to communicate clearly and listen intently.
Yes.
Listen intently, because again, we talked about this before. Many people are talking, many people are listening, waiting to talk.
Hmm.
And if
Yes.
you're listening, waiting to talk, you're not hearing what they're saying. You're preparing your response before you get all the information.
Yes.
So we need to make sure that, that listening thing is just so critical.
Yes. But
Hearing what people say.
I feel like I'm probably guilty of listening intently but not communicating clearly. So we also, I think there's a thing where we have to balance both. You have to communicate your needs and listen to theirs. You can't just listen to theirs and then your needs aren't met because you're not communicating. So
Ah,
we have to balance it out. Yeah. You got to do both.
well, do you feel like you're listening? Are you listening to them so that you can give them what they need? And when you say that your needs are not going to be met, are you just kind of focusing so much on trying to accommodate them that you are putting yourself aside? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think that's what that is. I think it's more just having difficulty explaining, my needs clearly. Cuz I'm like I think that's more the difficulty that I would have. Like I would listen really intently, understand how they're feeling, what they're thinking, but then communicating like when I feel like there's something I need to say, I feel like I may like not communicate as effectively. Or
Right.
assume they already get it. Assume I'm communicating it, but maybe it's not as clear as I thought.
Well, I mean, I think one of the other things we talked about this before is that you need to know what's important to you, because a
Yeah.
lot of times we have all these different things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we want A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But really, only G is the most important thing,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and then so what's happening is we're putting all this focus on the other things that are not as important, and then the
Yeah.
most important thing gets lost.
Yes.
So
That. that
narrow in on what's important. Find out what's important to your partner. Find out what's important to your friends, and then you can have a better conversation with them. You can listen
mm-hmm.
better because you know them, right? So we need to make sure. And we also, I mean, like Sierrah talk about a safe space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's important for men to express their needs and for partners to create a safe environment for honest conversations. I think that's a huge piece, especially if you know, like, you have a partner or a friend who has a trouble expressing themselves. Like, you should be really focusing on trying to make sure that they feel safe to have discussions with you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, it could not be that they feel like you're difficult to speak to, or that you're going to chop their head off if you say anything. But it could be from, like, previous experiences of them growing up, or lessons they've learned from school or other friends they've had where they might be more hesitant to communicate with you, or other relationships. So it's not even necessarily like, oh, I need to create a safe space. You're telling me I need to create a safe space because you're afraid of me or I've done something. It's just like, in many of our pasts, we've been in situations where you communicated your feelings and they're shut down, or you communicated what you were thinking and someone disregarded it. So then you just assume that everyone is going to do that, especially like in dating. Like, when you go out on dates with people who are self-focused, don't care about you, and then you bring up, oh, I'd like to do this, and they completely shut it down and disregard it. Why would you bring that up to me? Or I don't want to do that. Then you assume that that's like, oh, okay, that's not something I should do going forward, and you avoid doing that with others.
No, no, absolutely. I think the other piece is that when you are vulnerable with people, then they throw it back at you. They use it against you. So
That,
let's say you say that, I have a history of A, B, and C. And then as soon as something comes up that, well, you're used to doing this, so
yes,
people are calling you on the very things that you're sensitive about,
yes,
right?
yeah. In the
And
past, if
so,
that's happened to you, you would
mm-hmm.
think, oh, okay, I shouldn't tell my partner these things because he's gonna throw it back in my face. Whereas that is not the case for a man who is ethical and actually cares about you.
Let me see what Dr. Laura says. She says, yes, we as women have to slow down sometimes, maybe because we're used to taking care of the children, households, etc. That I believe we do a lot out of habit and not realizing my hubby and kids quick to say, you don't give them time to do it. Yep, that's
Mm,
exactly right. But you know what? I hear you, Laura, but I want to get it done right, right? No, I hear you on that. But I think that, sometimes we have to let up on our like high standards and be
mm-hmm.
willing to have it at a little bit lower level and let them do it, because eventually they're going to reach your standard. But we got to open the door, again, going back to create a safe environment, them feeling like they're not going to feel less than, or they're not going to feel like their effort is not good enough. So sometimes we have to do that. And part of that, Laura, is slowing down, because we want it done right now. I want it done right now, and I want it done the way I want it done. So,
Mm-hmm.
but if we slow down and say, okay, you know what? It might not get done as fast as I want it to get done. It might not even get done exactly the way I want it to get done, but I want them to get in the habit of doing it, and then we
Yes.
can we can we can get better. So
Yes.
part of new behaviors is practicing. Give them an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to practice. Just the
Yeah.
same with us. A lot of we have some guys out there, and I know my husband was one of those who they would do everything for you, and so you and you had to do nothing. And
Mm-hmm.
so but the problem with that is, and this is for my situation because I'm actually a widow, is that if you let your husband do everything, if you let your wife do everything, if something happens and they're not there anymore, then how is the ship going to continue to sail?
Yeah. 100%.
right? So with that's why once again we need to make sure that we're working, working like a partnership, so
Hmm.
that we won't have no one person failure. If one
Yes.
person is not there, the ship still goes, and I'm a
Yeah.
witness to that.
But something like to backpack off of what Laura said is, we're talking about slowing down and giving, men the opportunity. One example of that is like, I love going to the movies, right? So if a date was like, hey, I would be like, hey, we should go to the movies. I'd be like, great. My immediately, and then something happened to me where they're like, oh, I got the tickets. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, no, I'm just saying like immediately I'm like, oh no, where are we sitting, which theater did they choose, because I'm very like particular about which theater I go to, for what reason, and like where to sit in the theater. I don't want to be all the way in the back, I don't want to be all the way in the front. So immediately I start getting anxious, but then I had to take a step back and be like, okay, it's good for them to take the initiative, appreciate that they did so, and kind of accept to a certain extent what comes from that. But that's a control thing. That's taking, like, letting go of some control. And one time it did happen and the seats were bad.
And that's what
The
I'm
seats were
saying. Sometimes we gotta let our expectations go, but we still need to let them know that we appreciated the effort, right? But
Yes.
another thing, another side of that is being honest.
Yeah.
Because too many times people are doing things that we don't like and we
Yes.
don't say anything,
Yes.
right?
It's
So
true.
we have to find ways to make sure that we can be honest, because we talked about this. Okay, Sierra, here's the deal. We talked about the hygiene thing,
Oh, okay.
right?
Yep. Yeah.
That's a great example.
Yes. Yes.
So you want to talk about that?
I don't want to come for anyone. And we're just saying this is completely, like, we understand different people have different situations.
Right.
But one thing I've noticed a lot recently is men going around with a lot of plaque, calculus in their teeth, especially the bottom row. Things that can be addressed. And I'm not talking, these are people with health insurance, they have access to get it clean. And these people have partners. And it makes me wonder, like, what conversations are they having? Are they not being honest with each other? Because that's something that I would immediately mention to them and say, because this isn't a preference issue, it's a hygiene issue.
Right.
So you're always wondering, like, are they not saying anything to them? They should feel like, if you're in a relationship, you should feel comfortable enough to be like, hey, what's going on here? That can easily be fixed. Like, what's,
Yeah.
do you know that you can solve this very easily? You have access. So that's a question. You want to make sure you have a safe space to say things like that.
To be
Because
honest, yeah. I mean, I want to know if my breath doesn't smell good, and sometimes it doesn't. So I want to know. I want you to tell
all
me
of us.
because I want you to I want you to set me up for success, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I always wonder about, and this is just not about men and women, but I always wonder, like you'll see a group of friends together, and we're on the outside looking in, so we're trying to be objective, I guess. And you say, why is that friend not telling that friend about that situation, right?
Yes.
And you're
Yes.
like, why would you have a friend? Like, for me, I actually resent having friends that say me too. That's what
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking. Me too. I don't want friends that all I hear is me too and that's what I was thinking. I want friends to have their own opinions and to be honest with me, right? So
Yes.
we always ask that. I always ask that question about it, but the answer is birds
Mm-hmm.
of a feather flock together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna say nothing about you because I do the same thing,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
that's why it's important for us to have friends that are not carbon copies of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which, I mean, an example also. That's why it's important to have diversity,
Yes.
right?
100%. Yes.
Diversity is what's going to give you some objective views, and it's going to help you to grow. Because, as I always say, no growth happens in the comfort zone. So if you're
Yeah.
completely comfortable in everything that you do, you are not growing.
100%.
You need to be you need a little shake up, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So I guess we'll go. I'm like, look, that's enough on that. We're just talking about, I think we're just talking about how, it's just when people feel safe, they're going to be more likely to be vulnerable. We're
Yes.
talking about the safe space here. We're talking about
Yeah.
how do you make a safe space for someone?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good question because we all really need to do it. And we would kind of assume that, like, oh, if I'm good friends with something, they obviously would feel safe having conversations with me. Or, oh, we've been dating for 3 years. Of course they'd feel, but like I said earlier, a lot of stuff about safety and communication, it comes from like it's built upon like past traumas, experiences we've had before. So probably to like make sure someone feels safe, I feel like the best way to do it is to try to offer up something about yourself that's vulnerable. That's
Mm-hmm.
probably the best way to kind of break down walls and make sure people feel like you guys are on equal footing. This isn't someone who's trying to like gather information from you to tell other people. Like you really need to like, and because I do this all the time because people don't trust me sometimes. They think I'm going to be judgmental to a certain extent, and I'm not saying that I'm not going to be, but the best way I found is to try to like humanize myself by giving something that's a little vulnerable about myself, so that they feel like they can be vulnerable with me. I think that's the best way to start.
Yeah, and finding a common ground too.
Mm-hmm.
Finding something when you're sharing the information. Hopefully, you can share something that you're connected with,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yes.
that's where so that once again, it's about listening intently and finding out who you are interacting with. And when you do that, then I believe you will have discernment to find out what you're supposed to be sharing with that person, because every share is not for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I don't need to be talking to you about, my experience over here that has
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do. I mean, my 60-year-old woman experience with a 20-year-old trying to help her along the way. No, I need to talk to a 20-year-old about my 20-year-old experience that
Yes.
might line up with them to let them know that I've been there where you are, right?
Yes. Or something that's like a little like funny, like something like embarrassing, maybe something that
Yeah.
makes people feel like, okay, this person isn't taking themselves too seriously. They might be a little more open, and also like this might be tough for some, but like maybe don't spread the gossip. People tell you don't spread it because once people know that you're a gossiper who spreads information, then they 100%
Ooh.
shut
Oh, that's good. That's good,
down.
Sierra, especially about friends, right?
Yeah.
I think look, I think they
Yeah.
used to say the only secret that's gonna be kept is with the dead man.
Yes, yes, because we're gossiping is natural to a certain extent, but we definitely have to be aware. Like maybe don't gossip to someone that person also knows.
Yes, yes,
Don't
yes,
like don't tell the information to someone that person is going to encounter.
for
Um,
sure.
that's the easiest way to make sure stuff doesn't circle back around because the amount of people I've seen where like I'll tell them something and then all of it and then their friend brings it up to me.
Yes.
Wait, why did your friend know? Like clearly you told them. Or also don't if someone tells you something sensitive, bringing it up again in front of company that they didn't initially tell it to. Like these are pet peeves of mine. Like,
Yes.
okay, at least just say it behind my back to someone I've never met and I'll never know. Like that's I mean, I'm because if I see it start coming around, I start thinking like, oh, okay, this person is telling it to anyone.
Well, okay. So one of the things that I used to do with my kids when they were younger was I wouldn't allow my kids to share each other's information. So what I would say
Mhm.
is if something happened with my son, it's not my daughter's business to tell somebody else. That's
Yeah.
not your business. Don't share their information. Something happens in the house. It's, oh, yeah, my brother didn't know. I would not allow my kids to do that. And I think that as friends in friendships, we should also be like that. If I should not be sharing your personal information, even if you gave it to me, it's not
Mhm.
mine. You're sharing it with me. You do not give it to me. I do not own it. And
Mhm.
I think that's an important note to make. If somebody gave you some information that's theirs, you don't own it. They shared it with you, and all that's all you have it temporarily, and it's not for yours, not for you to pass it on to anybody else.
I
I think
think,
if
I mean,
mhm.
we can bring this back to like the topic of men. Like, how do you create a safe space for men to tell you something? I mean, this is critical. I mean, even for like women who have sons, like they always talk about how like boys go postal and no one knew that they were having any problems. So making a safe space for your children to talk to you, things like that. Boys, it might take longer just because they're a tougher nut to crack. Like and even you being vulnerable with them might not necessarily work. I what do you think the way to specifically make sure men can feel like they can tell you what they're feeling, like
What
actually?
I think one of the first things is to show them that you value them.
Yes.
I think that's the first piece, is to just show them that you appreciate what they do, you appreciate what they're doing that has nothing to do with you. Show them
Hmm.
that you're interested in what they do when they're
Yes.
doing things that you necessarily wouldn't be interested in. I think that's the groundwork. That's where the groundwork starts with your boys and with the men, because too many times we're like, well, I don't do that. I ain't interested in that, you know. So I think that that's how you start with valuing what they value, showing them that you value what they value. I think
Yeah.
I think that's a great groundwork.
Yeah, that's a good that makes sense, because I mean it's even true for like in your relationships generally with like you're a man, because we see this a lot from men. They like you go and interact with them and you say you like to do something that's like very girly, right? You're like, oh, I don't know, I like to do needlepoint. I don't know, and and they'll like say something sarcastic to you about it, like, oh really?
Granny, you
Like
grandmommy, you know.
granny, and then you're sitting there and you're like, wait, but I like doing needlepoint. Like it's really relaxing, it's creative, whatever. And it's like, okay, to a certain extent, like that's fine with your friends, and that might actually be fine with your relationships, because some people do neg like that to build camaraderie, and you
Hmm.
do have to know who you're speaking to. Um,
Hmm.
but like to create a safe space, like the same thing with men. Like if a man says, oh, I like doing I like building figurines, and your
Hmm.
immediate response is nerd, nerd, and it's like,
Right.
so then they're not going to want to share something more serious with you or something more like emotional with you, because they're like, oh, as soon as I said that, you jumped down my throat about something that's like, you know, nonsensical. So like, what are you going to do when I actually have something to come forward to you about?
Right.
Um,
And I think that's how you build trust. You do build trust. You build, like I said, I think the foundation of building trust is to show people that you value them, show them
yeah.
that you're interested in what they're interested in, and show them that you have their best interests at heart. And when you do that, I think that that opens the door for men to trust you enough to share their information with you. Right.
Yeah, because people tell me anything. Like I'm told, like people have random conversations with me, and they tell me stories that like I have no context for the people in it. Like women in bathrooms, people at work, they always say things to me, and that's because typically when I'm having conversation, I try to avoid like immediately judging every single thing someone says. Like they're like, "Oh, I went to do ice luge." I'm not like ice luge.
Right.
Like you should that doesn't need to be a response to everything. Like who does that? Like that doesn't need to be the response to everything. Even if you feel that way, you can just say, "Oh, interesting."
Right. And I
Move on.
think
You don't need to.
and also I think, you know, again, being honest about things. I mean, somebody says, you know, what do you think, instead of saying no, I don't like that, or having some kind of negative input, you can say, well, it's not my that's not my preference.
Yeah.
That's not my
Yeah.
preference. You can say something
Yeah.
like that. So you can say it in a different way that, I don't prefer that, but I love that for you. I love when people
Yeah.
say that. I love that for you. And not saying it in a sarcastic way, but being for real about it. Like,
Yeah.
wonderful. I'm excited. I'm excited for you for doing that. That's not
Yeah.
something that I would want to do, but I'm excited. I'll
Also,
join, I'll be a good spectator.
you don't need to want to do anything. Like, it's like when someone tells me, "Oh, I'm going to the Cardi B concert." I don't need to be like, "I would never go to a Cardi B concert." Like,
Yeah.
no one's asking you to go to the Cardi B concert. They're just saying what they're doing. So it's like those are two different things. People act as though what other people are doing has some type of impact on themselves. And I'm like, what is that? Like, that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care. I don't
No,
care.
it's true. I
They're
think
just having fun. They're just telling you they're doing something that they're going to enjoy and have fun at. Oh, cool.
Well, it's clear here's a little something for you. Don't yuck on my yum.
Yeah.
If I'm liking something, I don't need you to yuck on it. People like
Yeah.
you show somebody something, go, ugh, I don't like that. No, don't yuck on my yum. Don't yuck
Yeah.
on my yum. Come on, just keep it to yourself. As simple
Keep
as
it
that.
keep it
But
to
you know
yourself.
what? did want to ask you something though, Sierra. Like,
Mhm.
when you're thinking back, like how did men in your life, like, how did your dad or whatever communicate love? How did he communicate love?
See, and this comes back to the love languages, which we were going to discuss in a later pod. It's like I feel like it was acts of service, quality time, and because of that, like that's what I react to now. Like I
Mm-hmm.
care about things what guys do for me,
Mm-hmm.
and then I care about quality time. I don't, I'm not really big on like I don't heavily need words of affirmation. If I'm getting the quality time and the acts of service, then all the affirmations are done for me.
Right. No, that's
But
good.
which I think is not the worst way to love language to have if we're like doing a tier list of best and worst love languages, because quality time is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
especially for someone who's busy, like you have to that takes time out of your day, as it states. It's not the easiest thing, and an acts of service requires action. It requires you to listen and do something based upon what you've heard. What my needs are. So it requires a lot versus like what are the other ones like what's it called, words of affirmation or gifts. Those are
Physical touch and gifts.
physical touch. Those things, like especially like gifts or words of affirmation, are very easy to manufacture. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can easily just show up with flowers. Although for some reason people act like that's impossible, but those things can easily be done with little thought, no planning. You can words of affirmation. Oh, you're the love of my life. Like
Yeah,
you're
too
a
easy.
unicorn. You're the best thing I've ever seen. Like that is very easy. So yeah,
I was saying, I think Laura made a comment. Shout out to Laura for tuning in every week. We
yes.
appreciate you, Dr. Laura. She was just
Yes.
talking about how she didn't like sports, and then she realized that it was an important part of her husband's life, and so she started watching and she started learning and she started appreciating it. See, that's
Yes.
what we got to do, ladies. We got to
Yes.
get in on that. We don't need to try to take over their
No.
sports segment, but we do need to make sure that they understand that we're interested in what they're interested in, right?
Yeah. Yes, and hopefully they'll do the same for us. It needs
Yeah.
to be a little bit of like, hopefully they'll watch Love Island.
Mhm.
Hopefully they'll maybe.
No, that's true. That's absolutely true. Okay, so what else we got? Okay, Sierra. What is
Mhm.
okay? So Sierra, I guess the other question was, what assumptions do men and women make about each other, and how can we become better listeners in our relationships? So some of the assumptions the assumptions are that women talk too much. The assumptions are that men don't communicate enough.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of assumptions. There's
I think
assumptions, that men.
I think an assumption like I think women have for men is they're not being considerate. Like they don't think about stuff. They're not like they're not strategic, or they don't think enough about what they're doing or what they're saying. Which I mean, I'm still not sure if that's true or not, if that assumption is false.
Well, I don't think they're not as considerate. I just think that they really are like tunnel focused on, what they're focused on.
Yes.
They're not into the details of things, so they miss some things. I mean, I think
Mhm.
those are some of the assumptions. And I
Mhm.
think for women, some of the assumptions are that, that they're expected to do everything. That's an
Yeah.
assumption, right?
And
Women,
the assumption,
we have to do everything. We're always doing this, we're doing that, blah, 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 blah. But
oh,
really, I
yeah.
think that those are established roles in households and relationships. And
Mhm.
I always say this, and I will always say this: when you have new relationships, I'm talking about friendships, all of those, you need to establish the ground rules of how we're
Yes.
going to move forward. Establish some
Yeah.
ground rules in relationships. So don't, men and women, don't come into relationships, which everybody talks about this. Don't come into relationships with the representative that is not going to be there after 3 months.
Yes. Yes.
You need to show up as your authentic self. You show
Yes.
up as your authentic self, and you let people know, what you will tolerate, what's important to you, what your deal breakers are. When you put those things out there, either those people are going to fall in line or they're going to fall off.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And sometimes, many times, we are afraid of losing the connection or losing the friendship or losing the relationship. But what I always say is you got to be willing to lose it to keep it.
Yeah.
And if you're not, then you're gonna find yourself in awkward situations, resenting people, not having a real relationship. You're just kind of, you guys are hanging out or whatever, and then if you're talking about your friends behind their back in a negative sense. Now,
Mhm.
a negative sense. What do I mean by that? I mean, if I'm talking about my friends, negatively, that's a problem. Because what
Mhm.
I've learned, and this is what I do, I'm not telling everybody to do it. Anything that I say behind your back, I better be willing to say it in your face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes, guess what? It ain't good.
No.
Sometimes it's not going to be good. Sometimes you're going to be mad at me, but I still have to be willing to do that. And so I think that everybody needs to have a little bit of that in them.
I was
Own
thinking
it.
about the assumptions that, like, I know the assumption that men have about women is when, like, we're communicating our needs or wants that we're nagging,
Yeah.
right? Men feel nagged all the time, and then men are not communicating what they need at all.
Yeah.
So men feel nagged, women feel like isolated, or like they're just not saying anything. So that's like a weird mismatch. And I do know that it's like women, we rather communicate what we want done than just keep it on our, like, have it on our back and just start resenting people. Because those are the only options, really. If you either communicate what you need, or you sit back and you resent someone for not fulfilling the needs that you didn't communicate. And those are really the
That's
only
so true.
options.
No,
Um,
that's so true. That's
yeah.
absolutely true on it. I think we're closing out, and I think a final word that I would have to say,
Hmm.
when we take time to understand different communication styles, we'll build healthier families and stronger communities. And
Hmm.
Laura wanted to say, now that she's older, she believes men listen to us. Like you said before, it takes a minute for them to process it, and that they're not to give, so that they won't give the wrong responses. So we have to make sure that we understand that. Absolutely.
Yes.
Sierrah, you want to close us out?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Just remember, we're better together when we connect, communicate, and collaborate. Here's some quick scripture for you. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. James 1:19. That's a good little tidbit for you at the end.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, thank you guys again for joining in. Remember, like, subscribe,
Yes.
share. This is recorded, so we just share it with our people and they get a chance to look at it later. We'll be back next week, Father's Day, I think, and we're going to have a couple men on this month, so they're going to give their side of the story.
Yes.
So I hope you guys will join us, and we will see you next time, because we are always better
Better together.
together.